Hello Ji, welcome back to Fundu Tester. In last session we discussed about a different type of a cards API. Now in this we are going to perform couple of more operations, like we are going to add a checklist on a card, we are going to add comments on a card. So we'll see how this can be done. So first of all, I'm going to the Trello board. Here I'm going to add one demo card, demo, and the card. On top of this card I'm going to add a checklist. I'm specifying the checklist plan and then add. So basically the purpose of checklist is, if we have created a one card for a single task, I'm trying to divide that particular task activity into subtasks. So now for this demo task I have a multiple subtasks, so that is called as a checklist. So how we can add via API, and apart from here comment we can add. So for example I am typing XYZ and a comment. So how we can add a comment. So these two things we will see in this session. I'm going to the API documentation, and here we have a checklist section, and I'm going to basically they have given the multiple operations like a post, get, put, delete. You can see all the operations are here. First we are going to talk about a create a checklist. For create checklist we have multiple parameters to pass. So this we can pass via body, or we can pass with a query parameters. These are ID cards, name, POS, ID, checklist source. Going to copy this structure, entire structure of this curl, and I'm going on a Postman and pasting this data, and we have to pass one by one information. So first is a API key and API token. So I'm going to again create card API. We discussed in a previous session. I'm going to the query parameter section, bulk edit, and I am going to copy paste this data there. So this easily can be implemented. Now we are not sure. ID card we know, so that is basically a card ID. Checklist and board details we have no ideas. In previous sessions also I told, if we don't have any information, that we can straightforward reach out to the development team, or if UI is ready then we can go to the inspector and then we can get the API data. So going to delete this basically checklist, and we'll add one more checklist, and to see in a network tab which information being passed. So I'm going to XHR section. We have to go to inspector, network tab, and then XHR section, and then I'm going to add a one checklist, lesson plan, and I'm going to clean up all this. So there is a clear button, so we can see only latest one. Just add, and we can see here checklist API. See basically ID board, ID card, ID checklist source, and lesson plan. So I'm going to straightforward copy this data and will update on a Postman. So I'm going to the body, and we have to select a row as a data type, and then we will pass a JSON data, and I'm going to beautify the data so we can see in a structural format. Now we have a ID board, which is a board ID. So if you are not sure what board ID you need to pass, then we first section we worked on a get specific board data. We need to again trigger this API, and here we have to look for the board name. So I am working on a testing weekly plan. We can see here we are working on a testing weekly plan. So we need to pass this particular board ID. So here we have board ID. I'm going to copy this, and I am going to pass here. Board ID is done. Name we can pass any name, and description we can pass any dummy description. So test description. You understand the hierarchy. First is a board. So we have to first pick the board ID. On top of the second layer is a ID. So on a board we have created a ID. So on particular board we are passing a board ID. Then we are passing a card ID. So now we have to find the card ID. So for that I am going to create a one more card. I'm going to give a name checklist card, and then send. So now we got a card ID. Here the card got created. Checklist card, this card, particular card got created, and we have to pass that particular ID. So I'm passing a card ID as well, and then checklist source, which is a standard template, and I'm giving a name, lesson plan, and all these things. So need to save this request. Trello API testing tutorial. I'm giving a name, create checklist, and saving this request. So if we hit this request, the card should be reflected here. The checklist should be reflected here. Send, and everything is created, and we can see all the data. Now this particular task we can again do the check. We can edit the name. For example, we want to edit the name, or assign due date, or we wanted to delete. So now each and every task has particular ID, and that particular checklist has some IDs. So for example, now next onwards, if we have to work on a checklist, then we have to use this particular checklist IDs. Now we will see how we can delete checklist. So basically again, for a delete checklist, we have given the there is a one API to delete a checklist, and there is a two more API. So get and update I am giving you for a homework. Those are a simple straightforward APIs. Simply for this we have to pass a checklist ID. So checklist and checklist ID. So we got here checklist ID. We just need to import this request and pass the checklist ID. Similar way for update, the body will be the same of a create checklist. The same body, we are just updating a name or description if you wanted to update, or you can update a card name. And similar way, we have a delete checklist request. So I'm going to copy this curl and we'll understand how it's gonna work. So basically here we are passing a ID of a checklist. So this data we have to pass. So again, I'm going to the parameter of a previous request. I'm going to copy this data and passing here this data, and now we have to pass a checklist ID. So we have created a checklist and we are passing a checklist ID. Here we have to, instead of a flower brushes, we have to pass a checklist ID, and then we have to save this delete checklist and save. The API got saved, and now we can delete. So as of now we can see here the checklist is there. Once I'll click send, see the checklist got deleted, and here we got a successful response. Now we will see how we can add comments on the card. So again, I am going to the card section, and there we will try to find that particular comment API. So that will be basically a post request. So post we have to look for add a new comment. Here we can see the APIs, add a new comment, and I am going to copy this information and going to paste on a Postman, and we are passing a multiple data like API key, API token will be a similar for all the requests. So I am going to copy this data, bulk edit, and I am going to passing a data. Now text, we have to understand each and every field. And text is basically a string and required data, and which is a comment. So whatever comment we wanted to do, we can pass with the text. So I am passing a comment as with a text. This is my first comment. This we can pass with parameters, or this we can pass with a body as well. And apart from that, we have to pass a card ID. So if we are performing any operation, we have to pass a card ID. So we have created a card, and here we got a ID. The same ID I am going to pass here. So again, I am going to the URL, that is a path parameter, and I am passing a card X. Card ID, actions, comment, and then after question mark, everything is a parameter. And now I am going to save this request, which is a create comment on card, or add a comment on card. We are not creating comment, basically we are adding a comment. So if you are creating a collections, please give a meaningful name, so you also and your team member can easily understand. So I am going to save, and this API is ready. And if I am send, comment got created. Text is, this is my first comment. I am going to this, and here we can see the comment got added. So this is how we can add a comment on a card. And we will see, if I'm not passing this data with a query parameter, then if we are passing with a body, then it should work. So we are going to build a JSON that was a text and comment from body data, and send. A request is successful. We got a comment ID and a comment from body data. Second comment is also added. So here you have to understand one thing. If we are performing any activity, we are creating any data, that particular have a common unique ID. If I am creating a checklist, that will have ID. If I am creating a card, that will have ID. If I am adding a comment, that will have ID. So based on that ID, we can perform a subsequent actions, like on a card. If we have to delete the card or get a card, then whatever card ID we got while creating a card, we have to use that ID. If I am performing any action on a board, then whatever board ID we have, we are going to perform on this particular board ID. So for API testing, it is not just like to understand the structure of APIs. We have to make a flow in our mind. From one API, what are the data we are going to pass with the second API? From second, what data we are going to pass with the third API? So this flow we have to make, and this is the complicated part. This is why most of the people are not able to easily work on APIs. So you have to build a structure, you need to build a flow in your mind, and based on that you need to generate a test cases. We'll see in the next section how we can write a test cases for this as well. But now we will see how we can delete the card. So I'm going to the again Postman, and there is a one API in a action, delete action. So delete action, basically we are going to pass a that particular comment ID. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste, and we have to pass API key and token. So I'm going to copy from any other request, bulk edit, and passing this, and we have to delete the comment. So as I said, we have to look for ID. So based on this ID, we can perform the action. So I'm going to pass this data as a path parameter, comment ID, and send. So it is saying invalid key and invalid token because I have not saved the request. So we need to save this request, delete comment, and save. See, if I read, see the value got null and API response is 200. So we have deleted basically this appropriate comment from a body data. Now that shouldn't be there. See, that comment is disappeared. If I refresh this, then that comment shouldn't be there. On a checklist card, we have only one comment. And if I wanted to delete this is my second comment. Now I don't have an ID. So what we can do, simply we can go to the inspect network tab. We have to look for that particular card ID. So I'm opening this card, and we have to look for each and every APIs. For this API response, if you are getting that particular checklist card, URL, everything information is there. See, this is my first comment. Here we can see this is the ID of a card, and here we are getting a data of this particular. I am going to pass this information and going to hit this data. See, here it is again showing a 200 response, and now if I go to the comment got deleted. You have removed. The comment is basically deleted. Now I cannot see the comment. So like this, if you don't have a data, then you can fetch the data and you can perform the operations. So from next sessions onward, we are going to work on a dedicatedly this API, how we can enhance this collection, and we can run and this collection end to end dynamically, and will generate a report. So as a homework, till now we have worked on a 10 to 12 APIs. So I request you to, in your Postman, you should work on this API, and you should be able to run all these APIs successfully. If you are facing any issues, please let me know in a comment section. I hope this video is informative, and don't forget to like and share this video with your friend, and don't forget to subscribe Fundu Testers. Thank you so much.